Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas. The C2 Wrestling podcast is back the day after Christmas. Snowden. Merry Christmas,
CTD.
buddy.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you. Merry Christmas to all the C2 wrestling fans out there. About 495 of you right now. And climbing. We're getting there. But it's another holiday in the books.
Yeah, I'll be transparent. Didn't even put up a tree this year. I put up I bought a nice tree last year.
Yeah.
I put it up. It looked great. You've seen pictures of it. It was
Yeah,
a
it did.
pretty nice tree. Didn't have a cat last year, have a cat this year. Got busy. The closer Christmas got, I was like, you know what? I don't feel like dealing with the headache. I'll kick the can down to next year. My cat's first Christmas and seeing how he does with the tree will be next year. We'll
Yeah.
kick the can down the road.
It's interesting too, because man, I remember growing up as a kid. It's different when you're a kid, but those 25 days to Christmas, oh my God, it took ages. 25 days felt like a million days. 25 days as an adult feels like 6 hours. It was 6 hours ago. It was November. So the time flies. Forgetting to put up a tree, you look down, you look back up, and it's Christmas. So it
It's funny.
happens.
I have the opposite now. Like December 1st hits, and I'm like, oh my God, I dread Christmas because just 6 days after Christmas, I have to pay rent again. Like I just paid rent. I have to pay rent again. Like, oh God, pump the brakes. Have the month go a little slower.
Yeah, it's definitely flown by this holiday. I think the wrestling content we've been getting helps the time go by. It's been a great month within wrestling, and that's obviously what a lot of our lives revolve around. So, wrestling related, Christmas related. What do you want to get into?
I think there's plenty of good stuff to talk about. The fact that we both grew up watching wrestling and pretty much always watched wrestling, never
Yep.
really fell out of it.
Nope.
Some people had their phases. That means pretty much every year you're probably getting something wrestling related.
Absolutely.
And, I have a few different years of stuff that comes to mind. And I'm sure as we talk, more things will come to mind. But what is something that you got, maybe you asked for it, maybe you didn't get? Some Christmas memories as a wrestling fan.
So growing up as a kid, we had the Jack Pacific toys. We weren't really in the Mattel era, which maybe I'm biased here. Okay. Maybe it's my nostalgia, but I think those Jack Pacific figures are the best figures they ever put out, if I'm being honest. They also, different times used to cost way less than the figures nowadays. They're crazy how much they charge for figures. $50 for one figure. You used to be able to get like 9 figures and a ladder for that much money back in the day. Lots of figures, lots of stuff like that would come around. I, I have a couple prominent ones, but I did want to mention, we were always big on the wrestling video games, right? But the games used to come out October. So it was close enough to the holidays where I didn't get every game in October every year. Sometimes depends. Sometimes you get lucky. You swindle a parent into buying it for you. Who knows? But not every Christmas did I have to wait. I think it was, I want to say '06. SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 is the one that I'm prominently remembering as like wanting it so damn bad and having to wait till Christmas that I'm pretty confident. Like when I was opening gifts and I got that, I was ready to like, I'll open the other gifts later. I'm going to play SmackDown vs. Raw 2006.
I have like I have multiple memories that, we'll get into all of them, but one of the first that came to my mind, this is just so random. But one Christmas, uh, there was two things that I wanted. This isn't even, I'll get into the action figure memories in a second, but there was two things that I wanted. One was the Xbox Connect.
Okay.
The Connect had just come out. I wanted the Connect so bad. The other thing, now we not only did we grow up in the Jack Pacific era, we also grew up in the era of great DVDs and the
Absolutely.
DVD sets. And
Absolutely.
nowadays, they were pumping them out back then.
Yeah.
And I remember, at the time I loved this guy. I will say love has definitely faded on him, but I wanted so bad, and I got it. The Chris
Yeah.
Jericho I think it was like Break the Walls Down Anthem or something
Something
like
like
that.
that.
It
Yeah.
was in blue, blue packaging, 3 disc set.
Yep.
I remember getting that for Christmas and I was so excited. It was Back of the Tree, the only two things that I wanted.
Yeah.
Back of the
The
Tree,
back of the tree.
got through a couple of the other stuff, then Back of the Tree. First was the Jericho DVD, next was the Connect. Couldn't have been happier. It was like Christmas miracle.
That is funny. We really did grow up in the DVD era. We, us all, are spoiled now with Peacock and the network and Netflix. Oh my God, it's so easy and click a couple buttons, put anything on. Back then, if you didn't catch it, you didn't see it. You had to get it on those DVDs. YouTube comes around at a point, starts getting some stuff. Don't get me wrong, but I very vividly remember that ladder match DVD. This is not Christmas related, but we talk about it all the time. The ladder match volume one.
That reminds me, I need to buy that. We had said I want to
Yeah,
rebuy
I
it.
want a
I'm
copy of
writing it
that.
down right
Yeah,
now.
literally. That is like one of the most prominent memories of mine is just endlessly rewatching that ladder match DVD. But relating it back to Christmas, it was figure galore as a kid growing up on Christmas. It was just figures left and right. I do prominently remember one Christmas. I want to say I'm like 8, I think. So I'm young, you're still at that era of like, I believe Santa. And I remember opening up some
What do you
some
mean?
presents. I don't believe anymore. Well, I am Santa now. Is the point? Yeah, yeah. But I remember opening up some stuff, and I'm getting some figures and whatnot. And I remember getting a Jeff Hardy figure. I was like, "Oh, it's a sick figure." I had a couple Jeff Hardy figures, I believe, but this was a good one. And I'm like, "Oh, cool, sweet." I put it aside. I'm opening up some more gifts, some more gifts. I open up another gift. I get the same Jeff Hardy figure, and I'm like, "Hold on a minute." Fucking Santa messed up something. Like, I'm going crazy as a kid. I'm like, Santa got me the same figure twice. Like, what is Santa thinking? And then I'm like, man, I could have got like a different figure in exchange for this one. Little did I know, it's not Santa,
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I always thought that was kind of funny in hindsight.
I had one Christmas there. This Christmas for me, like this is the stamp of the OG. I had one Christmas where just about everything I got was wrestling action figures. I had a
Yeah,
couple of things that your parents get you that maybe you kind of need, so it comes as a Christmas present,
yeah,
whatever. You need some new shorts,
yeah.
whatever stuff. You as a kid you're not asking for it, but you
You
need
need
it.
it. Yeah.
So the wrestlers that
Uh huh.
I got TNA galore.
Yeah.
I got an Abyss action figure that came with the Abyss mask.
Okay, that's
I
fire.
got a Shark Boy action figure that came with the Shark Boy mask.
Also fire.
Then I want to say it
Had that
was,
actually the Shark Boy one.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got the Alex Shelley that came with the tripod and camera because that was his gimmick at the
Yep.
time. A Billy Gunn, and then I got a James Storm that came with the NWA tag titles or tag title. The shitty part about that James Storm, it was one of those where you take his jacket off and his arms still have the sleeves. So I hated using it because his arms were sleeved. The last thing that I got, and I was very excited for this, I want to say it was WrestleMania 22
Mhm.
or 21. It was an entrance set. And so I got, and it was awesome. I'm like, oh my God, like this is so cool. I have a whole entrance for my action figures.
That is cool. Yep.
So I'm putting it together after all my presents are open,
Yeah.
and there was pieces missing.
Oh,
And so I remember my parents were like, "We'll bring you back. We'll bring you to Toys R Us and try to
get one.
exchange it."
Yeah.
We go to Toys R Us. Of course, they're sold out.
Yeah.
So I just got more TNA action figures with that. Yeah, I forget like what it was. I didn't even like think like crazy. They have a gift receipt. Like I didn't even think of
Yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah,
I'm a little kid at the time. At the time,
yeah,
probably like
yeah,
I don't know, 8, 9.
yeah.
But
I
yeah,
didn't know
just
Toys R Us
TNA.
and the
Yeah,
North Pole have an affiliation
yeah,
together. Like that's
exactly. Like they
crazy.
must be
Yeah,
sponsored by them or
yeah,
something. It must be like a pipeline where they just
yeah.
ship right to them. But
You know,
that like all those TNA action figures, that one Christmas,
it was a
I
lot.
got
Yeah,
so many.
yeah. It was definitely figures left and right every Christmas as a kid. And I remember, like post opening the gifts, you got all the stuff in your room, and I'd lay them down, I'd open them all up, and then I gotta have like some big match. I gotta use these guys now. So I'd be sitting there setting everything up. I do believe I got the Elimination Chamber on a Christmas, and that was like a quick grab, set it up, use this thing. That was a great setup. That was a good one. A lot of belts too. I used to get the belts a lot. It's some of those things that as a kid you don't really think about it till you're older. Man, I wish I held on to it all. I wish I held on to it all. I had the SmackDown tag titles; those were always the good ones. So much stuff, man. I really wish. I vividly remember as a kid, real little kid, getting like the Oval Intercontinental Championship, and there's some photo of me somewhere holding that title up. But some good stuff, man.
I was lucky growing up. Excuse me. I was lucky that I've always had my godparents in my life.
Mhm.
Love them very much. My godparents, specifically my godfather, he would always take me to wrestling shows. And they knew,
Did he? Did he let you hang out with the Ho Train?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
No, he was actually
yeah.
Papa Shango when I was growing up. He was,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, he was
yeah,
a Godfather. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, he
yeah,
wasn't the
yeah,
godfather
yeah,
yet.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I met him when he was the Good Father.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Jimbo Slice. At some point, I'll be on this channel. Um, Growing up, I had my normal Christmas, and then whatever that weekend was, I would go to my godparents' house because I'd go to their house every weekend, and they would hook me up. I would get honestly a lot more of like the figures that I wanted.
from them.
They
Yeah,
would they would get, and like my dad was never into wrestling. My dad, he
yeah,
could have probably named maybe five wrestlers. My
yeah.
godfather watched, so it was also much easier where
Understood it.
he understood it. Like he knew if there was a action figure that I talked about, like he knew what he was looking for.
Yeah.
I remember I have multiple memories, but one big specific one that they came through. I will never forget one Christmas. They got me my big ask, and that was the Punjabi prison playset. And I was so hyped. I want to say it came with a red Batista and the Great Khali,
That sounds right.
or
Yeah, that
I
sounds
or
right.
I had the Great Khali already, but I know the red Batista came with it.
Yeah.
I loved that. It was such a pain in the ass to play with. Like
Oh, yeah. It's like
it was near
impossible.
impossible.
Yeah.
You're a little kid too. You're trying to reach your
You're over
arms
top like a
over. Yeah,
puppeteer. Yeah.
exactly. But it was so new and it was so different when they made it. I was like, I need this. Like this,
Ah,
I need it. And getting that, I'll never forget. And the only thing I didn't like about it,
uh-huh.
I don't know if this was every Punjabi playset or if this was, like just mine specifically.
Yeah.
The ring was more like greenish. The matte
Huh.
color was more like greenish. I'm gonna have to
Huh.
look it up
It's got like a tint to
to
it.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was more like a minty green than it was like their normal matte color. But now I'm
Yeah.
thinking about it, I remember, putting that matte in the corner and popping it down so it
Yeah.
clicks in, all the things that you used to do.
You know, I speaking of sets again. Well, let me just say, I wanted everything wrestling related
Of
as a kid.
course.
They could drop any set, any title belt, toy, figure, weapon, whatever. I wanted it all. But they did at a point. I believe I got it for Christmas as well. They had it was a ring. The mat, if I'm correct, was actually red. I don't know why I remember it as red, but I remember the mat being red. There was a little black circle in the center of the mat. And when you would hit a guy down, if you had the ring on, it would like, oh boy, God, it would like
Yeah.
grunt and things like that. Attached to the ring was just kind of like these big steel podiums, and they had like a little bar up top. And the ring was like an average size ring. And I never used like the grunting noise, I always had that off and things like that. But what I loved about it was it gave you the opportunity to hang a belt from something and have legitimate ladder matches with your figures. You know, don't get me wrong. I always found that a way. Whether it was fishing line from the ceiling in my room or whatever, a ruler off the end of my bed with a book on the end of it.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
you always found a way to get a ladder match going. But man, when you had the simplicity of just hanging a belt from somewhere, it made it so much better.
I had a similar ring. I didn't get it for Christmas. My brother had already had it. It was a WCW ring. And it was actually kind of weird because it had this square in the middle where if you hit it, it did like catchphrases. I remember Hogan's
Yeah,
was in
yeah.
there. That part was like mesh, and then
Uh-huh.
outside of it was like plastic. So it wasn't like that great to play with because you'd hit in and like part of it they kind of sink in, the other part, is solid.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did find a picture. I was correct. It was a red Batista and the Great Khali.
Okay.
Let's see if the camera does it justice. See like the tint on it? It's like a
Okay.
bluish greenish tint of a ring mat.
It's a little hard to see in camera, but I can kind of get what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. That lines up.
I'm gonna text it to you so you can really
Yeah,
see,
yeah.
and if people want to look it up, they can look it up themselves. But I to keep the Christmas stories going of wrestling things that we got or didn't get. One of my favorites was actually so simple that like in hindsight you would think that more of my favorites would have been when I got the boatload of TNA action figures or whatever. There was one Christmas, and this was like more towards the tail end of getting action figures for Christmas. Didn't
Yeah.
get as many. A
Grown
lot. You
out
you
of
already,
it.
yeah, exactly, and like you already have so many, and like don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, I was getting action figures into Mattel. I was getting Mattel action
Yeah.
figures, and I'd started displaying them or getting them signed and stuff like that, and then I sold them or gave them to my nephews. Wish I didn't because I have recently started to get more again to
Yeah.
display. There was an action figure that I got, and this is so simple. This is not someone who is rare. One year, I got a Triple H action figure, and I believe I mentioned it on this podcast. It had like this taped fist that was different,
Okay.
where like his taped fist, it had like rigid, as if it was like a
Yeah, yeah.
different texture, so it actually felt like it was a taped fist.
Yeah.
It was like the perfect Triple H action figure. It was just there was nothing different about it. It was just their run of the mill,
Triple H.
Triple H. I believe it was a King of Kings Triple H.
Okay.
It was the only action figure I got for that Christmas. That Triple H might be like a 97-time champion, figure to me. I'm not
Yeah,
even joking.
yeah.
He
Oh yeah.
won so many goddamn titles.
Oh yeah, yeah. Everyone's got a figure like that. Everybody had a couple like old reliables they would always go to all the time. This is I didn't get it for Christmas, but I think it was actually my birthday one year. Just similar to that being a different material. I know you're going to understand this when we've talked about it. The first ever Carlito action figure, which he had the Hawaiian shirt sleeves did not come off, very unfortunate, but his hair, the afro was like felt. It was weird. It was like such an odd material, but I don't know, it was kind of cool. I kind of liked it a lot. I used to always just kind of like sit down, I like rub the hair a little bit. It was like felt nice. It's different from like the plastic or rubber that they use in the longer hair.
Another action figure that my godparents came through on, I wanted, and it was so expensive when it came out because it was hard to find.
Mm-hmm.
They ended up getting it. I don't remember if it was that Christmas or if I got it after. I just remember they came through getting it.
Yeah,
But it was the first ever Hornswoggle action figure.
that's crazy. Yeah, that's
When
one I never had actually. Yeah.
when that one came out, it was Jack Pacific. It was like impossible to find. And also at this time, like Ringside wasn't what it is now.
Yeah, it's not.
Like
Yeah,
now with Ringside, with Amazon, like getting action figures was not as easy as it is now.
no, no. If
Just
it
like
wasn't at
most
the
things.
store, you didn't have it.
Yeah, like growing up, it was like you hit KB Toys and you hit Toys R Us that was across the street. And if they didn't have it, like kids don't even realize like Target didn't have wrestling action figures back in the day. Target was not a
No, did
wrestling
not,
action figure
did
spot.
not. Yeah,
Now it's like you get Target exclusives and stuff like
yep,
that. Target's like where you go at this point.
yeah.
Back then it wasn't a thing. It was KB Toys and Toys R Us, and like
AB
that was it.
Toys and Toys R Us. Yep,
That
literally.
was, and then like Walgreens would have,
Some
yeah,
stragglers. They would have
exactly.
like the nothings that nobody wants. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And like you'd randomly hit on a, Walgreens or a Rite Aid that had like just for some reason had a great action figure. But I wanted the Hornswoggle so bad, and they ended up coming through at some point because I remember I had Finley, and then I had Hornswoggle with them, and it was like I finally had completed it. My godparents came through clutch, but I remember that Christmas like That was the only action figure I wanted was that
Was
Hornswoggle.
Hornswoggle. Yeah. There's definitely a few like can't believe I had them. I feel like, we're born in 97, both of us, from that age in which you can remember. Let's call it '01 onwards, '01 until whatever age you stop really playing with the figures, let's call it shit for me, 9, 10, right? It's kind of the age, right?
Probably I
Oh,
probably went
9.
to like we were born in 97. Yeah, when it's about 12, 13,
Yeah,
roughly.
right. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Uh,
middle school, when you start
Onward.
talking
Yeah.
yeah, you start
Yeah.
talking to girls and you're
Yeah,
like,
you start falling out of it a
yeah.
little bit. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're like, I mean, I should probably stop playing with dolls. They're
Yeah.
action figures though.
Yeah.
But
And then you'd occasionally like you'd still have the bag under your bed, you'd occasionally,
yeah,
damn, let me
yeah,
rust
yeah.
these off, see if I
I mean,
still
man,
got
this
it.
might be the last one ever. I might as well just make it a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. And then 6 months later, you're like, man, I want to do a Royal Rumble. Let me do a Royal Rumble real
yeah,
quick.
yeah,
It's a rainy day. I'm home alone.
yeah. Why not? No one's gonna hear me.
Yeah.
There was a lot of figures throughout that time frame. Name it, and I probably had it. I had a lot of crazy random figures. And it's funny because I was thinking about this yesterday, right? Where what's different with figures nowadays too, the access to them is undeniably so much easier. Back then, if you didn't have it at the local store, you weren't getting it really. Nowadays too, yeah, it's everywhere. But they also they don't just make figures of anybody. Back then, somebody would debut and they would make the figure of that guy. I remember having a Sylvester Turkai action figure. Like, why the hell did I have that useless action figure? That's such a random one. It's so relevant because yesterday I was watching December to Dismember, and he has a match with Elijah Burke. So there's like some stragglers that are like so random. I remember we've talked about it. We had the, as you dressed up for Halloween, Simon Dean action figure. I believe that's one I actually
Also
got
the
for Christmas.
sleeves.
Sleeves, yep, didn't come off.
Yep.
That's a shame. A lot of figures. 9 out of 10 Undertakers did that because they would always put the code on them. But we were talking about sets. I had a bunch of sets. I had the Chamber, I had the Hell in a Cell, a bunch come and go over the years. One that I never got because it was right at that age of where I think I wanted it for Christmas, but it was like if I'm gonna get it, then I'm not gonna get something else. And we're getting at that age where maybe I'll collect figures, but we're not really playing with them. So I don't know if I need the sets anymore. But we hit that age of 12, and they finally dropped a ring with the barricade, with the stage, the announce table, like an actual arena. And I remember the barricade was like a breakaway. You could knock the barricade over. That to me was like injected in my veins. I need that thing so bad. If you were to give that to me only a couple of years prior, I would have given up anything for that set. Just a standard ring, barricade on the stage. Oh, so nice.
They made a Mattel version of that
Yeah.
early on into Mattel that was actually really nice. It was like bigger. It was like those are like 24 by 24 or something like
Yeah.
that. Like they were huge. I thought you were gonna say, because this is a set that I actually never got. They did a Money in the Bank set, I want to say,
Oh yeah, I never had that one either.
and it
Yeah.
was like all four, and it had like a little hook at the
Uh-huh.
top.
Yep.
I believe that was a Jax set. I never got that though.
So that kind of rings to me as a Mattel set, to be honest, but it might have been
Was it? I
Jax.
thought it was a Jax. I
You
didn't
know,
get it, so I don't remember.
so my thing with the rings and whatnot, and I just said one of the rings I used the most was the one with the poles for the to hang the belt, but I wasn't crazy on the rings that weren't just like a standard ring. If it was a ring and had 4 poles on each corner, I don't know, that doesn't really do it for me. Yeah, maybe I'll use that for my Ultimate X matches or something, but outside of that use, I never got much use out of those.
I know we're talking Christmas, but for my birthday one year, it was WrestleMania 2 or 3. I forget which
The
one.
ring,
The authentic ring.
authentic ring, I had that too.
Yeah.
Yep, yep,
Yeah, I got that. The one that didn't come with an action figure. It was by
yep,
itself.
yep. It
Um,
was blue.
yeah, yep, blue, red, white,
Yep,
the blue turnbuckles that were like foam,
yep.
the
You had the little
the,
two
the
hooks with
metal
the
piece.
with
Yep.
the black
The
rubber
ring
piece
posts
would
were actually metal.
the ring posts were metal, and you know that there
Yeah.
was that black piece that would go over the 2 hooks for the
Yep.
turnbuckle. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
Those things used to taste so good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that, like, I remember, and then you got the cloth actual ring that's got like the
Yep.
elastic on it. So that was like my main ring
Yeah. Real
when I got
aprons. You
that.
could actually put stuff under the ring.
Yep. Yeah,
because
and
you
then it's
man,
like if you had to take it apart, the pieces that folded. I don't know if they still do it like this, but it was
yeah,
just two what's the rectangles, and it just
yeah.
folded
It's
down.
so funny because I would put like the steel chairs and stuff under the ring, but I would
Of
have to
course.
lift up the entire
Yeah.
ring and the rest would slide out the back end of it. This is another ring set that was definitely past our time, I believe. Never had it. Was they made a breakaway ring where it was a ring, but
Yes.
it wasn't like there was one little pocket in the corner. It would break like a thing of ice. The entire
Yeah.
ring mat would shatter. It's
That's
like four pieces. I always thought that was so dumb. Like that's an example of a ring that I would have never used.
yeah. As you got older, was there wrestling stuff that you got? I know there was some wrestling, like random wrestling stuff I got, and I'm like drawing blanks on it.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a lot of random stuff. I mean, honestly,
yeah.
again, like countless figures to the belts, which are all like don't even need to mention because you know what they are. I got the belts, got the
Yeah.
figures. Um, got some sets, some DVDs, like you said. There's probably some shirts and stuff here or there. The video games were always a prominent one if I didn't have the video game at the time. As a kid growing up, those video games were something else, man. Like at the PS2 days, I played a lot of video games. I don't know if I have more time on any other games than the wrestling games as a kid. So those are always a big one. I'm trying to think. Nothing off the top of my head outside of the couple things we mentioned. Within wrestling, I always wanted like an authentic belt, but I knew that was one that I was probably never really gonna get, so I never really asked for it. Maybe I would have back then, who knows? But I never really asked for something like that. It was more just toy related for me. That was all where my head was back then.
Yeah, honestly, that was like the main thing I was asking for when I was a kid. And also like I feel like there really isn't much else to ask for. That's like your main interest.
Well, yeah, and like yeah, like maybe there was a shirt or two here or there, but even that was a rarity. I feel like was asking for like the clothing.
Yeah.
Like it was more so I want the toys, the figures, the belts. At a very young age, there was like the Wrestle Buddies. Those kind of went away for a while though. So I do remember having a couple of those. Probably got one or two for Christmas. To be honest, I do have a handful. I do. This is again a very early Christmas. Like hardly remember. I don't know if you're going to remember this series. These are WWF figures we're talking about here. WWF Jams. Does that ring a bell?
Not really.
So this is before Jack Pacific. So this is like when the figures were like scrawnier, kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
And it would be a figure and it would come with a little boom box about like
Oh,
that
yes.
big. And the boom box had a button. It
Yes.
would just play their theme and whatnot.
I had a
Yeah,
Scotty Too Hottie and
that's fire.
Rikishi. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, too cool. Yeah, I had a
Yeah.
Kurt Angle. I think there was Jeff Hardy with the Jeff and would play his theme, the Hardy Boys theme.
Yes.
Those were fire. Those were so cool. I remember getting like one or two of those. I mean, honestly, I could have got like 20 of them for Christmas. I have no idea, but I vividly remember like on a Christmas having that in my hand, kind of,
Yeah,
real young.
that also like when I was really young, that is era of like godparents coming through with
Yeah,
just the best action figures for Christmas, like some
yeah,
of the best stuff. Now it's kind of funny as an adult, um, I don't buy myself Christmas presents because I just buy myself stuff. I'm an
yeah,
adult.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's like,
That's how it works. Yep.
yeah, it's like I don't, like sometimes I'll catch myself like if you buy something expensive, you're like, I'll consider this my Christmas present or whatever.
Yeah,
Last year, the shirt you're wearing,
yeah.
when we were ordering our WrestleMania stuff, I remember thinking we're like, it's just an early Christmas present to us. Just think of it as an early Christmas present to yourself.
Yep. Got to
That's
treat yourself sometimes.
exactly what I think of.
Yeah, WrestleMania is maybe the greatest Christmas gift I've ever gotten, even though I
Yeah.
gave it to myself last year. What an experience that was. That's something too that like as a kid, like I don't know, like I went to a couple Raws, don't get me wrong, but I was never really like asking for tickets and things like that. I don't know, like, but it's you understood how it worked back then. It wasn't that simple,
Yeah,
you know.
for sure. So keeping the Christmas theme rolling as the we stay in the holiday festivities, I figured this year we create our own little Santa, Christmas list, our Christmas wishes. And now this list isn't like the things we're going to rattle off. These are very specific to us. These are if I had my own figure fed, this is something I would want to do, or this is not by any means like they should do this because it would make the product better, or like they should do this because more people would watch, or they do this wrong. Like, it is not that at all. This is
Yeah.
strictly like you wake up Christmas morning and you can get whatever you want in the WWE. What do you want?
Oh man, what do I want if I can get anything in the WWE? Man, listen, if we're being realistic, there's some like, all right, these will never happen, and these are plausible potentially. There's a couple things that come to mind. You know, two of them are plausible. I would love in the year 2025, we got to get that CM Punk title run. That's plausible though. That seems
Yeah.
likely to happen. So I almost don't want to waste my Christmas wish on that. Another thing that comes to mind, it's a bit prominent. I won't say this does or doesn't happen, but it could. When he returns, I'd love to see a Tsunami win a world title. Bronson Reed with a world title run would also be cool. But overall, man, this is a real Christmas miracle we need. I would love one more Triple H match, man. One more match. Get back in the ring if you could. Triple H with a final real deal send off of his career. Sign me up. I'll be there.
That's the Christmas wish list. That is,
Yeah.
it's you're begging for Santa. One first thing that came to my mind as the TNA OG, when AJ Styles is eventually able to return, I would love, short-lived, doesn't have to be long.
Yeah.
I'd love a little trio action of the Machine Guns and Styles, and maybe they face the Bloodline or something,
Yeah.
or even OG Bloodline or New Bloodline. You can mix in someone else who's been in TNA as well that to make the four if you need four. I would love that might be near top of the list for me of Christmas wishes of things that if I could have my way, that's happening.
Yeah, I mean, that's not outlandish either. That's not one that, as long as Styles comes back eventually and is healthy enough to go, I think they'd be silly to not have some sort of interaction between the three guys, even if it was just like they teamed up on a SmackDown or something once. It's gonna happen eventually. A lot of Christmas wishes within wrestling, though, man. There'd be, if you had all the time in the world, I could sit here forever and just list off things that I want to happen, wish would happen. But there's a few that are a bit prominent. The Guns and Styles together, that's up there. That is a good one. That is a good
Yeah.
one. That's like the kid in me is happy with that one.
I've got a few others. I will go to this next one, and this probably, again, like as we're saying these, it's not like I want all of these things to happen because we're mentioning, oh, this person get a world title run. This one, when you say these things, when you make your Christmas wish list, you're not getting all of them. So you
Yeah.
put four of the same similar thing and you hope you get one of them.
Yeah.
I would love that Finn Balor world title run that we just never appropriately got.
Yeah, it is crazy because he on paper is a former champion, but
Yeah.
he's kind of not really. It's tough. He's one of those guys that unfortunate injury, bad timing, company was in shambles a little bit for a while there. He just never got really the spotlight he should have had. And he's hitting that last, I'm not saying last run, but last chance at a title run type phase. Once you're in your 40s, don't get me wrong, I could be mistaken. He could have 5 title runs ahead of him still. Once you hit the age that Styles is at, a guy like that, once you hit the age that a Finn is at, you're getting to that point where you might not have as many opportunities as Braun Breaker is going to have to win the world title. I got no time frame on Breaker. It's going to happen. Finn Balor, it's this year or never.
To play off of that, I'm not saying this is where he would have to win it,
Yeah,
but man, I would love Finn Balor, Cody Rhodes as a story, like a nice 3 to 4 month story.
that would be a good one. Yeah,
It is so easily written with, again, two former Bullet Club leaders, the creator of the Bullet Club, and then the guy who arguably revived it after Styles left. Like,
yeah,
that story writes itself on top of all of the other stuff. This is another one of Dusty's fabled kids versus,
yeah, yeah.
Dusty's
Dusty's
actual
kid.
kid. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
it's so easy. It's something that we've talked about with Cody. Yes, he's been back for a few years now, which is crazy. We're
crazy.
approaching what, 3 years since
3.
he's
Yeah,
returned. he still has so many people he hasn't faced because he's
Yep.
been in such long stories with people that a Finn story is completely fresh. And I could
Yeah.
go down a laundry list of guys. And yes, they did feud for the tag titles and they were in faction feuds, but just one on one, the stories within that matchup,
Mm.
we've never gotten.
Yeah. There wasn't some maybe, big title feud between Cody Rhodes and so and so. Hell, maybe there's even a couple guys that he had a match here or there with on a Raw, on a SmackDown. But again, they didn't have the big throw it all out there type feud. Cody Rhodes, man, it's crazy when you put it into perspective like that. It's been almost 3 years. That really is nuts. That really is nuts. Going on 3 years. Time flies. It's been a hell of a 3 years. Cody Rhodes, WWE champion. I'm trying to think, in terms of another wish. Because this Cody Rhodes story right now, it really only seems logical that Cody loses the belt at whatever point he does to a couple people. It seems like Cody could lose the belt to The Rock, to Roman, to Randy Orton, maybe to a Kevin Owens. Those are kind of like the four names that come to mind. But who do you have take the belt off Cody Rhodes eventually? Wish list wise, Finn Balor's a good name for it, I think, to be honest, if you really want to work somebody up. I just mentioned him just in kind of passing, just threw a random name out there. But if Braun Breaker's your guy, man, do you have him be the one to take down Cody Rhodes? That might be the wish list.
Do you have any Christmas wish list for the Royal Rumble?
Oof.
Because that's,
Uh,
any legends maybe with a cameo, or I've got one that just popped in my
okay.
head.
I will never be upset at like an RVD Rumble
Nah, you
appearance.
son of
Yeah,
a
yeah.
bitch.
There's no way I'll ever be upset at an RVD Rumble appearance. The whole effing show. Honestly, you can put them on TV every day, 7 days a week. I'm gonna be okay with it. Uh, honestly, I'm not gonna be surprised this year. Like I want it. Not, I don't mean in a bad way, but when we get like a Joe Hendry or somebody coming out in the Rumble, a men's TNA star, I think we'll get eventually. I don't have any timetable on this because this guy is injured, but it would be a great pop and surprise if somehow Ilya is set to return and we somehow get that. He might be injured for another 9 months. I have no idea. That's total wishful thinking. But he's one of those guys. The way he trains, maybe he pops back a little bit early. But I'm going to leave it at mostly the Joe Hendry thing. Not that it even has to be him exactly, but I do want a big TNA male name in the Rumble this year.
I think it'd be pretty cool if you had Nick Nemeth
Yeah,
pop in. I don't think he'll still be champion at the time. I think Joe Hendry's probably going to beat him for the title, I believe, at Genesis. Um, but I would love that. And that honestly, that's a good segue for another wish that I'd have. If this WWE TNA relationship is still a thing, it's died down a lot recently, but they seem to be in good graces, in good Jordan graces. I would love if they gave us one final Styles match in TNA. I know he was backstage at the Atlanta show that I was at, Final Resolution. They have a working relationship. TNA is doing these bigger venues for big pay-per-views in 2025. They need a name. Let's be honest, WWE, you know, the talent benefited the most, but WWE was benefiting more than TNA was in their
yeah,
relationship. It was a lot of their guys beating TNA guys, let's be honest. I would love that if you got Styles, say Nemeth is still the champion or it is a Joe Hendry or whatever, and they have a 25-minute match and it doesn't have to be a clean finish. Whatever it is, we get one more TNA match with AJ Styles.
yeah. I would absolutely love to see that. That is definitely on the list as well. AJ Styles, I'm surprised they didn't. I mean, maybe his injury is part of it, but I'm surprised they quite haven't gone there yet. If there's ever been a guy that you want to be like the spokesperson for this kind of relationship between the two companies, I mean, look no further than AJ Styles. On the topic of TNA, AJ Styles, Christmas wish list, things we want to see with this relationship that these two companies have had. And like you said, it's died down a little bit, sure, but we've had competitors go to TNA, we've had competitors go to NXT, to wherever. I need WWE to adopt the Ultimate X match. I
Oh,
know that
yeah.
is like unreasonable in a way, but why not? Why not adopt that match?
I almost feel like a piece of me is glad that they don't because like of
Keeps
the
it
few
special.
things that TNA has, them having
Yeah.
that is nice. Who knows? TNA just got a big TV deal in Canada. They're
Yep.
replacing what WWE was on. Um,
Big deal for TNA.
yeah,
Big deal
it's a
for
big
TNA.
deal for them. They're doing these bigger venues. Yes, they're losing some talent, but they're also teasing getting some big talent in. This could be a very big year for TNA. You know,
Huh.
they could. I don't think the WWE partnership is completely dead by any means. I think, TNA has been very consistent and they've been slowly climbing back. The last like 2 years of TNA have been pretty well, like all things considered. I know there's been big things that have happened that have been negative and some people leaving, some people returning. But compared to like years past, they had some dark ages. So a piece of me is like, yes, it'd be nice if WWE did an Ultimate X match. But at the same time, it's like, how about at Slammiversary, we would just get a couple WWE guys on TNA,
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah,
in an
that
X Division
I
match.
believe they had Riley Osborne was over in
Yeah.
TNA in the Ultimate X match, which is great to see. I do want to see the crossovers for things like that. I think part of it is the kid in me always wanted the Ultimate X match in the video game. So if you get WWE to adopt it, maybe we'll get it in the video game one day.
I have another big wish. And
Okay.
this one, I can't believe I didn't say it earlier, but this is something that's technically happened already.
Okay.
But it's not, it's like the touchdown was scored, but the extra point hasn't been kicked. I need in the Lord's year of 2025, WrestleMania weekend, Vegas, the biggest WrestleMania ever, whatever. I need the schedules to align and we finally properly get Batista in the Hall of Fame.
Yes, absolutely. He was 2020 was the year
Yeah,
they were going to,
yeah,
but
I think
COVID, of
20.
course, yeah, so it's been, 4 or 5 years. And then I think Batista's come out and said his schedule hasn't lined up. He was in like South Africa filming a movie or something like that during last WrestleMania. Hollywood would have been perfect for him. LA, WrestleMania 39, it only makes sense. You got to do it. Batista's a guaranteed Hall of Famer. And listen, there's still a lot of names they could put in the Hall of Fame. But when you're getting to that point where you're inducting Rey Mysterio, who's an active wrestler still, deserves the Hall of Fame, but he's still wrestling. You're maybe they're running out of names a little bit in comparison to some past years. So why not use Batista this year? That you don't need many people either. I think the years of 10 inductees are kind of gone. I think we're looking at 3 or 4 a year, which it should be. It should be lesser.
Yeah, and they obviously need one big headliner. Batista is one of the few. I mean, they've got a couple big headliners still left. The Rock
Oh
still
yeah,
isn't in.
yeah. The Rock, Batista,
Batista,
Cena,
Cena, which
Orton.
the question was Cena, would he go in this year since it's his final run, or would he go in next year when he's full blown retired, and you run the risk of him not being ready? Him
Yeah,
having his schedule's a little bit tighter. I think we could see Cena go into the Hall of Fame this year.
I absolutely think Cena going in this year is maybe the route they're going to go. To be honest, I can see that even like placating into a feud for WrestleMania. I don't like that. I would more so rather it be the year after if they can make that happen. But it is what it is. That's something to really complain about.
Yeah, but Batista, I would love for him to be finally in. Another wish. I said this to you before we came on. We are a Gunther Stan account, so I'll give you
Absolutely.
two technically. I wish Gunther just doesn't lose the title, and we go into next year. We're making this same video, and I can say that again, where I just wish he doesn't lose the title. But I do wish Ludwig Kaiser gets the title. Whether
Yes.
it be the Intercontinental title or the United States Championship, not the speed title. I want Ludwig with a proper title run. We see him getting praised by some of the biggest names. He's going to be working with CM Punk during the holiday tour, which I believe is today, the 26th. I need Ludwig to get his own title. It's a shame he never got the tag titles with um,
Giovanni
with
Vinci.
Giovanni Vinci. But let's get Ludwig a strap.
Yeah, that's actually one of my biggest like pet peeves over the last like 2 years is that Imperium never got like a proper main roster title run. Uh Ludwig Kaiser though, stellar talent, truly an underrated talent on that roster. Would absolutely love for him to get a mid card title run. I'm going to one up it a little bit. I don't only want him to get a mid card title run. I want him to have a very memorable one. I would like to see Ludwig Kaiser be the guy that wins, say, the U.S. title, but then for his little stint, he reverts it back to the European Championship or something along those lines. It would make so much sense for his gimmick, a wrestler like that. If he were to win that U.S. title, I know it's not on LA Knight anymore, but that's a face. Imagine he were to win it from an LA Knight, and then he runs the gimmick of like, I'm adding class back to the championship. We're changing it back, bringing it back to the homeland, Europe, wherever. I think that would be a great storyline for someone like Ludwig Kaiser.
And it'd be easy for when he drops the title to be honestly first name that came to my mind. Like, imagine we got Ludwig Kaiser wins the European Championship, holds it for, we'll say, 7 months, is this snobby European champion, and Americans are fighting to try to get him and get the title back and change it back to the United States title. I would love a babyface Austin Theory to be the one to beat Ludwig, bring it back to the United States as the United States champion. And that's,
Yeah,
is skyrocketing his babyface run. He's Theory's had some, let's be honest, people have poo-pooed on Theory. He was a great United States champion
yeah,
multiple times. I know some of the stories weren't great, but he had some damn good matches with that
bangers.
title.
Yeah, that I don't know what the hate on Theory was ever really all about. I think he's a great talent. I think it was more so just the he was a little extra pushed by Vince, in a very short span. Him winning the Money in the Bank is maybe a great example of that. But his actual U.S. title run was not really much to complain about, in my opinion. Against great matches, I think he's that guy that when Vince leaves and now he found his place a little bit more, had a good tag run with Waller. I love accolades. I'm glad that he has a tag title run under his belt now as well. That eventual babyface run for Theory is going to do wonders for him. I can absolutely see Theory taking that next step into like the stratosphere of being over. He really could be one of those guys on the level of like Dom, Cody, with Cheers, Jey Uso. I think it's only a matter of time for Austin Theory.
Completely agree. And as we kind of wind towards the end, still got a few that pop into my head. There's one pretty big one that has been teased. I don't think it's going to happen, but it got teased again on Monday Night Raw. That's why it's kind
Uh-huh.
of fresh in my mind. I've mentioned being a big fan of this guy. If we got a retirement match for Wade Barrett, just
Oof.
one more,
Oof.
I know he says he's retired. They teased it with Drew a few times.
Yep.
Obviously, kind of let the dust settle. You got Kofi and Woods picking on him, saying that he retired just like Big E and left when he still had gas in the tank instead of coming back. I would love that, maybe it's not WrestleMania. I mean, it'd be great, especially with all these European shows that you have leading up to WrestleMania.
Yeah.
It's so easy to promote with it. But maybe it's not WrestleMania. Maybe it's one of the overseas shows, a Clash at the Castle or something like that, or whatever. You do so many shows that are bigger now that maybe it doesn't happen at a Mania, but it happens in Manchester or something.
Yep. Yeah. I would
One
love that.
final Barrett.
I would love that. One final Barrett. I think he versus Drew makes a lot of sense. I don't really know if there's many other people that fit the bill for Wade. Maybe a Sheamus, people like that. But Wade versus Drew doesn't have to be at a Mania. If it's going to be at a Mania, sure. But that's a great match for any card, in my opinion. That's a match you put on a card that's not WrestleMania, and it's a better card now. People are going to want to tune in and see that. So that's a great one. Speaking of like retirees, you kind of had mentioned the Royal Rumble. I was thinking about this last time. Surprised I didn't mention this yet. Do you think it's possible? Now, this would also be a Christmas wish, miracle. Royal Rumble, Kofi Kingston, Xavier Woods are in the ring. They're getting booed like crazy. They eliminate a face. They throw somebody over the rope. They're in the ring. They're pointing fingers. Fans are yelling at them. Big E's music hits after that countdown. Big E returns, enters the Royal Rumble. Man, it's wishful thinking. I get it. I hope Big E's okay. His health is more important than wrestling, of course. But the pop to the Big E return at the Rumble, oh my God, that would be end the show. And Big E can come out, throw him out of the ring, just end the match. It's okay. No one has to win.
Oh man, it's like again, we've talked about it. They did the turn. We haven't seen Biggie since. They are getting nuclear heat, and there's
Yep.
so much sympathy. They're not just saying like they're not just trying to get the New Day booed. They're saying, I can't believe you did that to Big E. They are putting so much emphasis.
Yeah.
They did it to Big E, the most
Yeah.
likable guy, their brother, Big E. They're building all this sympathy. It cannot be for nothing. Like there is no way they're just going to keep building this sympathy up for a guy that we love, for him to just never show up again, be off on his merry way. I would love that. That's something that could also happen, like not to do repetitive booking, but that could be the New Day get tag title shots
Yep.
and they're about to cheat their way to the titles, and New Day and
Big
Big
E
E
stops him.
returns and costs the New Day. Like
Yeah.
that's also a possibility. That I should have wrote that down earlier. That has been added to my
Yep.
Santa
A wish
Christmas
list.
WWE wish list.
Yeah. The Big E return, man, that would be like out of all the Rumble moments you can really make happen, if you can make it happen, that really might be the one. That might be the moment of the year. And Rumble's always early in the year, but that really could hold strong for the entire year. I would love to see that. There's a lot of things I would love to see in the Royal Rumble. A lot of legends and stuff too. No one really coming off the top of my mind. I feel like they over the last couple of years haven't really done that. They've been kind of falling off of the like three legends of Rumble because the talent pool is so deep that they're just putting actual wrestlers in the matches now. But I'm still a big fan of that. I like one good legend a year. You got to give me one good surprise.
You've been calling for the X Pac
And
return.
listen, I still think X Pac should have been in like the 2020 Rumble or whatever it was. You know, there was that one year where like X Pac was hitting at it. He was in such good shape. They were still doing surprises, but we got like the Hurricane instead or something. You know, like, I still envision a world where X Pac is the surprise entrant in the Rumble one year, and it might be this year. It might be.
The Carlito one was pretty much willed into existence by WWE fans.
You know, the Carlito one, man. That's one of like the biggest shames in wrestling is that he returned to no fans in that Rumble. You
Yeah.
know, oh man, that's like one of those that would have been such a great pop. That's one of those that you YouTube, you go back and watch the Carlito Rumble return all the time. But him returning to no fans, shitty timing, man. That sucked.
We've said it. I know we're straying away from the wish list and more onto the Rumble, but we've said there's really not that many like big returns left. I mean, there's definitely debuts that would be crazy.
Yeah.
And look, if Daniel Bryan came back to the WWE, that'd be pretty big. It
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be like Edge, who doesn't wrestle for 10 years, or CM Punk after everything that happened. It feels like Big E's in that category. Then maybe like a tier below it is like your Daniel Bryan's, you know, maybe Adam Cole, roughly, like kind of like guys who were there and
Yeah.
went to AEW. There's no like big drama
Nah.
tied to it besides Big E of
Yeah.
his injury.
And
Outside
there,
of that,
yep.
there's not many.
And there's nobody that's even like, you know, on a injury return time frame right now where they could come back for the Rumble. Like Big E's definitely hurt at the moment, really. It's not like, you know, it's not like Roman got hurt at WrestleMania 40 and is prepared to return by the Rumble and he's going to be the big surprise. You know, like there is no real big
Well,
entrant here.
there's one or two that that it seems very possible that they are returning potentially at the Rumble. Um, one is Becky Lynch, and the other is Charlotte Flair.
Not the Rumble I'm watching.
But really, like when you think of the Rumble, that's probably your
yeah.
big surprises.
Yeah, you know, the storylines going into WrestleMania 41 though as well. I can already picture a world where the men's Rumble probably closes the show Women's Rumble, I'm sure they have like a Becky or a Charlotte or somebody returns in that match. It's nothing against the women, but we're talking two different fields here. When we're talking the men's Rumble and the women's Rumble, let's be honest. There's a big drawing factor to that show, and it's who's main eventing WrestleMania. And there's two nights of Mania now. The Mania event could be women and men, but that men's Rumble is really what holds the value here, especially this WrestleMania. Such a surprise. I don't know who's going to win.
So, final wrap up on our WrestleMania wish list. I'll ask you this. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking, I should say wrestling wish list, not WrestleMania wish list. Since we're talking WrestleMania and we're talking the Royal Rumble, what could happen, whatever, the path will become more clear for sure after the Royal Rumble. Not on or on your wish list.
Mm-hmm.
Which one would it be? I'll give you three options. Play some wish list, not wish list, or don't care, don't want it.
Okay.
Rock versus Cody,
Okay.
Rock versus Roman,
Okay.
or there's no Rock at Mania at all, and the options open up even more with who the hell knows with what they do.
I think you absolutely have to run Rock versus Roman this year at WrestleMania. I think that is the
So
match.
that's your wish list.
Yes, I know there's been a lot of like Cody Rock tension as well, and that's a match I also want. I think that's a money match. I think that is more so your SummerSlam match. I think Roman Rock over the years, the story goes all the way back really to the Rock helping Roman win the Rumble. That story is meant to finish at a WrestleMania.
I like the chaos in me is kind of like I almost don't need the Rock because there's it's like Cody said, you don't even know what we have planned. It's gonna be from left field. There's you know, it's all wide open. So that part of me is like, what the hell was that?
What was that?
Is your TV on?
No, you could. I mean, there's people like talking in the room
Oh,
over. If that's what you
okay.
heard, oh my god, really? Holy
Yeah,
shit! I could hardly hear that even like sitting here. That must
yeah. I heard that. It threw me off. Whatever.
have.
The I want to make sure I wasn't going crazy.
Nah, for a second, yeah, Beacon Crystal. What are you fucking talking about?
The Rock wrestling, like if you told me we get Rock Roman, we get Rock Cody, we get a triple threat, you know, I'm not going to be upset no matter what. I've already
Mm-hmm.
gotten the Cody title win. That was the main thing that I cared about. This to
Mm-hmm.
me is all like all the routes seem so great to me. And yes, there's like the slim chances that they do something that is so far out of left field that it is shit. I doubt they
Yeah.
will, but there feels like I don't even need to wish any of these things on my Christmas wish list because I know I was a good boy this year, and whatever Santa provides, I'm gonna be happy with. I know it's not gonna be Cole, Michael Cole.
Yeah. It's definitely not going to be Michael Cole. You know, Santa H this year, Santa Triple H this year is going to
Yeah,
deliver one way or another. So I'm looking
Papa
forward to
Claus.
Papa Claus. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to a lot. Papa rematch clause. I'm looking forward to a lot.
Papa Shango rematch clause.
All right, all right, we're gone. We've been going too far. I am very much looking forward to a lot of what wrestling has to offer. But to end of this, I will say my number one Christmas wish, wrestling related, it's all about C2 wrestling. I want us to hit that spike. I want us to get big. We are on a journey right now. This has been fantastic so far. We're closing in on 500 subs, only a few months in. That is the Christmas gift of the year so far. We are only rising. For this video, go down below, comment. You tell us what you want out of WWE in the year 2025. What's your Christmas wish? Not something that should happen or has to happen. Something you personally want to see happen in wrestling. But for now, Snowden,
CTD.
we are C2 Wrestling.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Ho ho ho.